What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dude Ranch DIY. My name is Jake.
And I'm Chris.
And we are back from the fellowship at the furnace. That was a really good time.
It was.
What, were you going to give me a handshake?
We did good.
Good seeing you, buddy. We did a good job down there. So did all you guys that came out and all of you that watched from your lazy boy chairs here on Dude Ranch DIY. But it was a lot of fun, a lot of great people. There was a lot of rain, but we made a lot of firewood. So Brad, have fun cleaning up that big mess. We left him with quite a mess there. You certainly got your work cut out for you between all the wood and all of the mud. Reclamation there on the woodyard lawn. But we are here at the Dude Ranch DIY woodyard, and we got just as much rain, and as you can see, we are looking pretty good. High and dry, out of the mud, and we got everything cleaned up the other day. We got the machine back underneath the enclosure here, and I even got a bunch of cherry cut up yesterday. Now, I think the plan for today is that we're going to take out the 7-way box wedge and we're going to try and split with probably the 6-way wedge. I think Chris and I deemed that to be the best. Now, I don't know about where you guys are from, but cherry around us, this is not your typical cherry. Most of your cherry is very squiggly and squirmy and twisted, knotty grain. And although this stuff looks to be like good rounds, you can see a lot of the cuts are somewhat, angular, just because, a lot of the cherries around here have really big crook to them. So we thought that because of that, swapping out the 7-way box wedge here, the pizza box wedge, would be a good idea. We'll get, less scrap, better splits of firewood, and we're going to swap it out with the standard 6-way, which is right over there. So it's going to be a little bit more work having to resplit some of these larger rounds, but I think ultimately it'll make less scrap and better quality firewood out of this stuff. Oh, well, this is supported. In case you guys were wondering, this thing is super heavy.
Face down or face up?
I think we should go face up and have the tail back that way, right? We can match them kind of. Okay. Now down. Got it? That's good. Good enough.
Muscles marinara.
Okay. Now you guys will notice that we use the wedge lift thing down there to our advantage. We drop it down all the way, and then we lift up the wedge and then raise the mechanism down there, which actually, disengages the wedge, but then the wedge is just resting on it, and we let the machine do the work. That way it's less for us to have to pull up and out. And then when we go to put it back in, it doesn't just drop down. We set it down, that's resting on the component down there. We'll fire up the machine and we'll show you, but we're gonna drop it down, and then all of a sudden it's gonna go boom, and it's gonna engage and click into place. So
everything is nice and controlled this way. It's not too herky-jerky, right? It doesn't slam around.
Yeah, and for those of you that are gonna say, why aren't you using the tractor? Well, we normally do use the tractor, but I didn't anticipate, or I didn't realize how squirrely this cherry was going to be, and not with the pith right in the center of the log. So once I was cutting it up, I realized, it's going to be better with the 6-way, but I'd already put all this wood here, so no big deal. Chris and I were able, thankfully, to get the box wedge out, got the 6-way in. We're going to fire up the machine and get going.
Do you have a weight on that box wedge? That's got to be every bit of 100, 150 pounds. I think it's way more than 150 pounds. I
think this is probably 175 pounds. I don't know. It's probably like to German spec weight, guten heavy. All right, now we'll fire it up and I'll show you what I was talking about. Just like that, locked in. That is one full tote. You can see Chris organizing the top over there through the 6-way wedge on the Eastonmade 2228 with attached conveyor. drop some comments down below how long you think that took. Now, granted, all the footage that you just saw of me splitting that tote, that was not the entirety of the time it took to split said tote. That took a long time. That really took a long time. Now, that being said, we didn't create all that much scrap. I'll show you in a second. And I think the wood came out, quality-wise, a lot higher quality than it would have if we had sent it through the pizza box wedge or even the standard 7-way box wedge. Like I said, a lot of this stuff was cut at an angle, or it just was an angle because of the crook in the tree. So keep that in mind. Drop a comment down below how long you think it took me to fill up that one tote in real time. Okay, now that you've dropped a comment, 28 minutes to fill up that one tote. Now, you guys know from watching previous videos, Chris and I can generally fill a tote in about 12 to 15 minutes. So even being not so generous, at the 15-minute mark, that took about 28 minutes. We could basically fill up 2 full totes through the box wedge in the same amount of time that it took us to fill up that one tote. So let me know what you think, if the extra time it takes to make cleaner wood and less scrap is worth it to you, and if you think it's worth it for us to maybe do this more often or what. Now, keep in mind, we are like doing somewhat of a production firewood thing here. I guess I don't need my glasses. What do you think?
For me, I would much rather the pizza box wedge. Granted, we do get a lot more scrap out of it, but we're able to pump out the full totes. We do still have a very clean, very nice, uniform product, and I think this just takes way too long from a production standpoint.
Right. Even as fast of a machine as this is, when you have larger rounds like this, some are small. We haven't really gotten to those. We're mostly doing larger rounds. But you really need either like one of those 16 or 12-way wedges or something like that, or you just, for the bigger rounds, or you just need to run, these smaller rounds, or you just run the box wedge. Now, I will say I am a lot more tired than I normally am after filling up one tote of firewood or splitting one tote of firewood. That pullback arm is immensely helpful. This is a big machine. I even have the tongue off of it to make it a little bit shorter, but it's really hard the way that this, with the this attached conveyor model is set up to stand on the log lift side, which is the side you want to stand on because that's where all the rounds are. But it's tough to stand on that log lift side while having the log lift up to be able to then walk around the log lift and pick up the pieces that you already split that are too big, because we, again, split our wood smaller. So we have to resplit it more times, which is why the box wedge typically seems to make a lot more sense for us, I think, right?
Yeah.
One guy can split, one guy can cut. In order to run this 6-way wedge effectively, I think we really need 2 people here
I was just about
to do
say
this.
That. If we were to run this efficiently, I think we do need that third person to keep the rounds cut and the second person to help
assist in the resplits. Okay, so that being said, we have a bunch of wood cut up here already. We still have some daylight. Why don't we get that full tote out of the way and run this as effectively as we can with 2 guys. One guy running the controls and the other guy pulling out the resplits.
Let's work on it.
All right. Drop a comment down below what you think this time will be.
I don't know. What do you think?
Ooh, look at those eyebrows.
Oh, yeah.
guys, so there we go. One full tote here, split with 2 people using the 6-way wedge on the 2228 with attached conveyor. Now, this was a large tote. The first tote we did was a small tote.
Little baby tote.
Do you remember how long it took us to do that tote?
I think it's 28 minutes.
28 minutes. What is your guess on this tote?
My guess for this tote is going to be 28, because we had the 2 people, we were splitting smaller diameter stuff, and I think
that took 28 minutes?
I think it took the same amount of time. Yeah.
Okay. Shame! Okay, well, you're wrong.
Oh, really? In a good way? Or
He's
bad?
wrong. Well, it's bad that you were wrong, but it's good that you were wrong in the way that you were wrong. Because, guys, it took us 18 minutes to split up this tote. We just let the cameras run there. You'll see I moved it like once. Chris came and reorganized the tote 2 times, I believe. Yep. So that was 18 minutes to fill up a large tote with 2 people. So that's cutting 10 minutes off, and we split more wood. So obviously there is a benefit to running with 2 people when you don't have the box wedge with that pullback arm. What Chris was doing was basically acting like the pullback arm, but he's a lot better looking, obviously. So right there, the proof is in the pudding that if you're running a machine of this caliber, and no matter how fast the auto cycle is and the stroke, whatever, you could have a 2-second stroke time, but if you can't fill that splitter chamber every 2 seconds, you're the bottleneck. The machine isn't going to be the bottleneck. So that's something to consider if you're looking at these Eastonmade or any commercial grade machines that split wood really fast. That's well and good. But if you're just one guy, it's not going to make a difference, So I hope that was useful for people out here looking at, comparing different wedges, comparing different machines. But if you're really thinking about doing something like this, you got to think about the process that you're going to be splitting. Because if I didn't have you would have been walking back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth. All the way across.
Right. And that's the extra 10 minutes that it took when I was splitting it by myself. So I actually think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see, if we keep up these numbers of about an 18-minute tote, because guys, look at this wood. It's really nice, split stuff. I guarantee you there's less scrap in there than a normal tote off the box wedge. And normally when we split 3 full totes, we'll have a full one of these and a lot more scrap on the ground. But given that we're using a 6-way wedge, and we can kind of manipulate the pieces the way we want, and it's not just tearing them like a box wedge does, we're getting a hell of a lot less scrap and really nice cherry pieces, because these pieces would make even more scrap than normal because the grain is so wavy. Because you didn't do a good job stacking it. That's why.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the big gaping hole in the tote.
No, it doesn't. My wood never falls out of there. We move hundreds of these things a year, and believe it or not, this rarely happens. Maybe a piece or 2. Ain't going nowhere. All right, guys, that's going to wrap this one up. Hope you guys found it useful. Again, comparing running the 6-way wedge with one person versus 2 people, how long it takes. I definitely like the box wedge, but I think it is valuable when we have gnarlier grain stuff to do this and take a little bit more time, because it's going to make nicer firewood as opposed to just all the rips and tears and stuff. I mean, but I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, it's six and 1/2 dozen the other, because you're either spending time cleaning up and burning the scrap, or you're spending time, you know, resplitting the wood. So kind of just depends on what your operation is and I guess how much effort you really want to put in. But that being said, this is a great machine. We love it. So that's going to be it. So as always, guys, if you like the video, give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, click the subscribe button down below. We'd appreciate it. Questions, comments, feedback, throw it down in that comment section. But for now, I'm Jake.
And I'm Chris.
It's Dude Ranch DIY. Thanks so much for watching. See you here next time. It's weird doing it in front of someone.
Yeah.
It's like we have an audience.